And I think people need to be willing to accept some truths that will hurt them personally. In other words, people are very invested in these two parties. There are Democrats who are very invested in the Democratic Party and Republicans who are very invested in the Republican Party. And they see their leaders, whether it's Nancy Pelosi or Donald Trump or whoever it might be, as sorts of heroes. And they have to be willing to accept that some of these people at the top, including people that they revere, are not the heroes. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I don't know who you like or who you don't like. But what I'm telling you as a member of Congress, because I'm in there and I see it with my eyes, I can see it firsthand up close. There are leaders on both sides of the aisle, and people will say, "Oh, don't both sides stuff." Well, this is the truth. This is the truth of what's wrong with Congress. There are leaders on both sides of the aisle who believe so strongly in the performative aspect of government. And their primary goal is to maintain the power they have through this performance. They're more like Hollywood entertainers than anything else. And this is on both sides of the aisle, not just Democrats, not just Republicans. It's both Republicans and Democrats. And it really starts with the leadership teams. I can assure you that we could have gotten something through the House and through the Senate on criminal justice reform, but there wasn't really a desire to do so. And we have to reckon with that actually some of the people who are telling you let's get things done don't want the resolution because it's preferable to have it as a campaign issue or to, for example, not give Donald Trump the win.
Yeah, why are more members of Congress not banging the table on this? And I have a hunch. I mean, it has something to do with the performative aspects you talked about, which is if you go to the town hall and then people are like, hey, we need this, and like the easy thing to do, having been a candidate, though sometimes, I mean, obviously I wasn't in office. So like, in many ways, it was both easier and harder for me. But you say, yes, we have to get that done is like the easy thing to do.
Right.
The hard thing to do would be to say, and hey, I guess I have no input in that because we're the minority party right now, and they have a closed legislative process that doesn't even allow amendments, so they just kind of serve it up, and then we like it's. I mean, it's very hard to present the second picture because it makes you seem less like you're gonna go back there and like do the what they want you to do. But it sounds like the second might be a more accurate picture for many.
Yeah, I watch these, I'm seeing all these campaign ads right now, and everyone's saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not going to do that because you have no power to do it. The system isn't designed to let you do that. And you asked, well, why don't the members of Congress, why don't they talk about this? And the sad truth is that the majority of them prefer this system. And, just to go through that a little bit, when you think about it, it's actually a pretty easy life for them. Okay, they come to Congress. If they bend the knee for leadership and just say, we'll go along with whatever show you're doing, you're putting on the Democrat show or you're putting on the Republican show or whatever, we'll go along with it. As long as they, play along and do the performance, they are taken care of. They're babied. And imagine someone, I try to frame it this way. When people say, Justin, why don't you run for speaker? Okay, well, here's why they would never choose me as speaker. Because I would tell them, we're going to open up the process, and you're going to have a lot of votes, and these votes are going to be tough. They're going to put you on the spot. And instead of spending all my time fundraising for my particular party, which is how the speaker operates today, a whole bunch of time is spent fundraising. So if I were running for speaker, I'd say, guess what? That's not going to be the focus of my work. My focus is going to be making sure the institution runs properly. It's not going to be out there raising money for my political party. If I were a Republican, for example, at the time, it's not going to be to go out there and raise money for Republicans or make sure Republicans win everywhere. I'm going to be focused on making sure this institution runs smoothly. And you know what the members of Congress would say to me who are going to vote for speaker? They'd say, well, no, thanks. We don't want that kind of speaker. We want the speaker who tells us, just, give me your voting card and I'll take care of everything for you. if you get attacked in your district or you get a primary challenge, we're there for you. We'll spend millions of dollars to protect you. If you vote with the speaker, we'll give you whatever committee assignment you want. They prefer that system. It's an easy life. When I go to the House floor, on average, I would say the members of Congress, most of them, 90%, do not actually know what we're voting on. Like, they know some rough idea of what the bill is. Like, they might know it's about a particular topic, but they actually don't know the workings of the legislation. And there's no one holding them accountable.
The two numbers that I'm throwing out there to the public, Justin, around this set of phenomenon you just described: congressional approval rating as a body, 21%. Re-election rate of individual members, 94%. So like, so everyone's there being like, hey, let me make sure I get reelected, and then like the overall performance is actually not that material to my reelection prospects.
And I see this all the time. By the way, I see this all the time in funny ways. Like, I'll be on Twitter and someone will say, my favorite representatives are, and then they'll list like a few who are kind of well known and maybe ones that even I think are pretty good ones, and then they'll list their own representative, and I'll be like, that guy is like not this. He's not the same as these others. Like, this is a right, but people think that their own representative is great, and I think it has to do with like sort of the messaging back home and people falling for it. And it's not the fault of people at home. They're busy. They've got their, they're super busy with their lives. I think probably people actually know more today about politics than they ever did in the past. So I don't want to criticize people at home for not knowing. And I don't know what to make of that other than like, that shows that the performance works, the theater works. But liking the person personally does not translate to the person being a good member of Congress. I mean, there are lots of really likable people who are terrible members of Congress. And, there are actually a few unlikable people who are really good members of Congress. So it's, I don't want to name names here either, but there just are. There are some people who are not that charismatic and not that likable. And I look at them and I'm like, oh, this is a pretty good member of Congress, not flashy, but they get the job done, and I can tell the person really understands things and is working hard.
Justin, among the other members of Congress, because you've been around in the chambers, who else is similarly disgusted with the current state of affairs and wants to clean up the mechanics? Like, who are the other members of Congress who are like, well, if they were in charge, and they would actually be like, look, let's try and make this place work again?
So, there are a lot of them who talk privately about this, and I'm not sure I want to go through all the names of my colleagues on this, but I would say that it's a minority of Congress. In other words, you have maybe a couple dozen to maybe 50 members who really care about this and would really welcome this kind of change. Maybe even up to 100 members out of the 435 who would welcome the change, even if some of them aren't that focused on it. And then the rest of them, over 300, who would not welcome making it actually a more open process or making the legislation more readable. There are people, and I wouldn't say it's a partisan thing. It's across the aisle. I know, for example, I'll just give you one prominent one because it's not a secret or anything. AOC has many times echoed my tweets or liked some of my tweets where I've talked about this broken process. I think she'd welcome something more open.
I believe
so
that.
It's not an ideological. It's not like an ideological thing.
It's something else. It's like an integrity thing.
Right, and she's another example of someone who I've been impressed with in the sense that she votes what she believes. I can't speak to that on every single vote, but I have seen a number of votes where she has been willing to buck her party, and that matters. That matters. Whether you agree with her ideologically or not, and I certainly have a lot of disagreements with her, and other areas where we agree. So I don't want to say it's all disagreements. There are lots of areas where we would agree, but at least I feel when she votes, she's doing it out of a place of integrity. She is staying true to what she told her constituents she would do. And I respect that. And I think that we need more legislators like that. It doesn't matter whether they are right or left. I just want people who are honest. I want a whole bunch of progressives and a whole bunch of libertarians and a whole bunch of conservatives. Let's put us all together and let's work through the issues in an open and honest way. And there are those members out there, but there's just not that many, unfortunately, because the system eats them up.
Thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you did, please do subscribe to Yang Speaks and click on notifications so we can let you know every time we have a new episode.